Technology has always been driver to architecture in society, in a more, depending on the more historical moment, in a more or less explicit way, as let's say, without industrialization we wouldn't have all this thing, but even Ruskin wouldn't exist without industrialization. You know, this was a specific harsh reaction to certain development in society. And because building is not just about ideas, but at the end it's very much connected to the material, but also to the very core of society. You know, the questions are, what is architecture, for whom, who can afford it, what is housing, you know. So it goes so deep that as soon as these things are connected with technologies, both on the design side as on the fabrication side. So do you have concrete or not? You know, do you have material that can theoretically, think of 20th century, you know, be interpreted as freeing up, you know, decoupling cost from volume, you know, or dramatically reducing this relationship, and then suddenly you have, you know, housing for everybody, what before was not a concept, you know. But then the next thing that comes up, I'm saying, technologically is so interweaved with our thinking in architecture that we cannot, I cannot think differently. You know, the question then is how much you let this discourse dictate your, you know, actions. And there we are completely free. You know, there we can adopt things, we can refuse things, we can reframe things, we can be critical. We should be critical, and so on. You know, but this, you know, this thinking in you can. Look at technology or not look at technology, I think this is a non-question, you know, because already if you ask the question, you know, it's already there, you know, otherwise you would just ignore it, you know. I would say they integrate existing technologies, and of course, at a certain point, if a process proves to be so much more efficient or better, whatever, then the old one disappears. But this is nothing special. You know, you have you know, you have material that have disappeared that were widely used 40 years ago, and then we found out that they are deadly dangerous, and now they're disappearing. You know, but construction industry cannot be changed overnight. It's just a characteristic of the, you know, it's such an unstructured, complex, cascading compound of contracts, competences, sizes, mechanism. You know, it's not like car industry where you have concentration of power, and already there it's difficult to change things, but there you could, you know. So the only reasonable, intelligent way to move forward is to do very careful, small steps, you know, that then will, if successful, sort of replicate and mutate and eventually change certain rules. But I don't see, So it's the same question as saying, will there be humans in 20 years on building site? I say, of course, you know, probably they will just do slightly different things than now. What is reasonable, you know? It's like if you go back 100 years in time, you know, the world was not identical, you know, but there are many things you would recognize, and the same thing is projection in the future. And everything is just naive, you know, because if somebody thinks that he can reinvent building overnight, then the only thing clear for me that has no clue about the industry, have never been on a building site, has never built anything, you know, and the people that say that machine will substitute human have never thought about the consequences, you know. I mean, now nobody's saying it, but you know, 10 years ago there were people saying this, you know, but yeah, what did people do, you know? One thing, and the second thing is, you could argue that they have never developed a complex system, you know, and haven't understood that the complex machine and system also always needs people, and very well educated ones. I think the pavilions are just the most visible part of this, but are not the reality, or not what will make the impact. The pavilion is there to communicate, it's a story, it's there to talk about things, it's there, is a tool for education often, but the real change is happening where in industry processes are automated in a way that, you know, while 20 years ago you would have done it in a certain, building a specific machine, you know, that would be able very efficiently to repeat a task forever. You know, now you would approach the same problem in a more intelligent and flexible way using, for example, robots, you know. And using the robot is not such a big problem. The problem comes when it's about designing the process, because this is very complex. This needs specialists that normally these companies do not have, you know. But if they succeed in, you know, doing this, and timber construction companies probably are the most advanced on this level, you know, so suddenly having knowledge in the company about how to program such a process, being able to assess very quickly if something is feasible or not and profitable or not. Let's say if a client comes in with an idea, you know, the worst thing that can happen, you have many robots and nobody that can tell if what the client wants is feasible, you know. Means that the robots are just there for nothing, you know. And this then triggers, you know, a mechanism that is about, in a commercial logic, you know, because these companies have to make money, you know, make Caterra not because they got all this money, you know, but at a certain point they will also have to start to make money. But all the others small have to make money at the end of the month to pay their people. So it's about small, let's say, space to maneuver and to eventually find that, you know, by changing little things with the tools you have and the knowledge you have, you can become more competitive, because you can start to offer something that is not just cheaper, but better, you know, more flexible, for example. Flexibility is a value on its own, you know. Sensors always depend on the task you want to do and on the year you want to buy them. Let's put it like this. If you want to buy them in 3 years, then you can use other things, because you can speculate the technologies that, you know. And then the third parameter is how much do you need. If you need one, it's one thing. If you need 20, you know, then if it has the same budget, then it has to be 20 times cheaper. Then, so it's very simple. Normally, I mean, you have a laser system versus vision. Laser is more expensive, vision is cheaper, but also more complex, but less robust. normally on this complex system you have a sort of a combination of multiple sensor that deliver data to a central unit that then through SLAM try to make sense of this information. And additionally, depending on, we want to look, do this, then you don't care so much about where this wall is in this very moment. So probably that you to solve this here in a specific way. And then they have to be fast. This is a problem with traditional industrial robots normally, that they're still, there are all these proprietary layers of control that make it hard to work in real time with sensors, because you have too much delay. But this is a thing that is, I think, just a legacy of the history of where this machine come from, and will very soon be solved, by just new control systems on the robots themselves, being able then to integrate. You have also until a few years ago, this was just there was no reason to even talk and think about these things, because there were people doing humanoid robots and all these things on their own, and then there were the other doing the robots for car industry, where the logic is very simple. You have to take a robot that is big, very rigid, very heavy, you don't care, then you bolt it with very big bolts. And then you have a remote control, and you teach, nice movement from here to here, and then you maybe have another tree to do the same movement. Once you're sure that they don't collide, you let it run. When we bought our first KUKA in 2005, talking to these guys, in Augsburg, so the mother house, we wanted to know more about the control they were using and the access to this control, and not only because they were not knowledgeable about it, but also because it was strange. They asked it, but why do we want to know? We sell these machines in 40 years. We're never asked about this. Nobody cares. This tells you a lot about, this we're developing a machine that could, through proper control, that doesn't care about how many, if it's the same movement or a different one, but nobody had ever articulated the interest, in doing something different than just repeating a movement 3 million times, as fast as possible, as cheap as possible, And this has changed, Also, these people start to understand how important it will be in the future, not only in construction, but also in construction, that the machine is not just a blind, very fast and powerful set of motors, moving in space, but that it has some, ability or possibility to recognize the space. And then if we add machine learning to this, it becomes pretty interesting. And all these people are extremely excited about the next 20 years, in robotics. Beyond the humanoid robotics that are there since as a vision since a long time, but just machines that, that you don't have to program, say pick this bottle, does it. It changes a lot, what you can do, and especially on the building site. Some claim that you can control them at a higher frequency than others, but they all share the fact that they have not been designed for this, and the business models, of the companies, don't really allow or like, this direct access to the low level. But I don't think this is the problem. The problem is, how do you bring it all together, assuming that you have a brand or a robot that gives you this? How do you connect it with all the other robots in the environment? And there are several possibilities, but for ROS, for example, is a powerful abstraction, to organize all this flow of information, because there it's always about, beyond the fact on real time and frequency and so on of update, but it's about, okay, if this sees this, what does it mean for the other one, And because this ecosystem can be very complex, it's better to have a system that allows you to structure them